Why do doctors marry other doctors? Hello, I'm Pika the Sun, and today with me is
Trisha, his wife.
And today we interviewed married doctors to find out.
Okay.
Hi, Dad.
Wake up.
We were classmates during our last year in med school.
Med school. We met in med school.
We ended up in the same medical school.
And then he started stalking.
During when we were third year, sinusundan lang kita lagi ng tingin.
And then
Noong
after
fourth
that-
year na, I decided na lakasan ko ng loob ko to try ko ng make the first move.
I met him through my roommate who was his group mate. So I used to hang out with their group,
Our anatomy class.
anatomy class.
Sa
Cafe, oo.
So, kakain kami. Sasabay lang ako, not necessarily ka-date ko siya, sasabayan ko lang siya. Pero at least kasabay ko na siya. Until the time, nasanay na siyang may asungot na kasabay siyang kumakain. Madali na kasi yung to ask her out.
Incidentally, we also ended up in the same fraternity/sorority counterpart. And that meant that we shared particular events together that provided more time for us to interact.
I invited her to a premiere of our frat. She couldn't believe it, so I said, okay, so that you will believe it, let's have a date before the actual date.
Cool moves.
Actually, nahiya rin ako, natatakot ako. Kasi siyempre, one fear ng guy is ma-reject ka. Fortunately, hindi naman. Hindi naman ako na-reject.
So we dated starting med school.
After he begged me.
We dated 89. 3 years?
Yeah,
88?
third year, fourth year. Internship.
Yeah.
Then we got married.
We dated siguro mga...
4 years.
4 years. More than 4 years. So about going 5 when we decided to get married. Nung she asked me to marry her. No, just kidding.
How long did we date?
4 years.
4 years before we got married.
Yeah, we were a third year medical student. I was a second year medical student.
And that's when we started, and it continued until we were residents.
Nung una na uunawaan ka niya, why? Lalo na for me, I'm a surgeon, no? I'm always out of the house. Minsan nga, papasok na lang sa movie house o papaalam pa ako may emergency.
I remember a doctor whose spouse was not in the medical field, and the spouse could not believe that a doctor would still be making rounds at 1 a.m., which for us is, yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, you understand each other at the dinner table. Parang you'd have something to talk about. Like in both our families, kasi we're all
family of
doctors.
yeah.
So a lot of our conversations over the table are
Medical in nature.
medical.
I've heard a lot of couples na hindi doctor yung isa. Lagi yun ang nag-aawayan
Argument.
yung time, no?
She's told us kasi, what kind of doctor makes rounds at 1 a.m.? And all of us said, all doctors. There might be times in one's life that you will be making rounds at 1 a.m. That's not unusual.
It's easier to sympathize and find ways to help one another if you're in the same field.
Yeah.
For example, you're duty and I'm free. I can drive you to work because
Yeah.
I know how hard it is.
You know what the other person needs kasi.
And ako, I know the nature of his job. Another advantage, I know his circle. Most of the people in his circle. So I know his whereabouts and his activities.
Maybe 5 a.m., 6 a.m. in the morning. And if I weren't a doctor, I would certainly think he was fooling around. Kasi 5 na eh. And when he comes home, you have that knowledge na, how are you? Kawawa ka naman. That is how you feel. Because you know that he wasn't having a grand time there. That he would stay only because it was required. And whatever that was, it was something that was heart-wrenching.
Your spouse also gives you another perspective of how it is to deal with patients. We have different personalities and we have different thresholds for people. And sometimes you reach the end of your patient, but then your spouse tells you, you should be more patient with your patients. Or you see the way she deals with her patients and you realize, I should really be more patient with my patients. It's another personal way of knowing how you're supposed to deal with people, which normally other people wouldn't be comfortable telling you or correcting you. But with your spouse, it's easier to correct her or him with regards to doctor-patient relationships.
Married.
Of being both doctors.
Sa akin, yun nga yung time.
I don't really know if you can call it a disadvantage. It can be just a potential problem, which is the tendency to be too busy. Doctors can be so engrossed either in their private practice or in the academe or in whatever aspect of the medical profession they decide to get involved in.
Tapos ang con, hindi kayo yayaman.
Grabe.
I guess it's a natural tendency for doctors to try to excel in whatever they put their finger into. And it's common to see doctor couples who are both excelling at the same time and maybe simultaneously busy with their respective practices to the detriment of the family or the marital relationship.
Pero yung disadvantage kasi, minsan in terms no, sa kids, hindi na naintindihan. Si mommy naintindihan, pero yung kids hindi. Bakit laging wala si daddy?
Another problem is inherent in the medical profession. Kasi when you're a consultant, you run the ship. You're the head of the corporation. As doctors, you have a tendency to make sure that your orders are followed. You have to follow what I say and how I should treat you. With the secretary, it's the same. I tell you to do this, do that, do this, do that. It's part of the medical profession.
Not all. Parang it's not a guarantee na.
True.
You can only
Yeah.
earn so much. Parang ganun.
True. I guess if you're going to be a doctor din naman in the first place, I don't think money is your primary objective. Right? I mean, there are much more lucrative ways to make a living.
Yeah.
Now, that works well in the workplace. But the problem is if you bring that attitude to the home, and if there are the two of you and both of you are bosses, it might lead to, like he says, potential problems.
Can be a source of conflict.
Yes, a source of conflict when between the two of you, particularly a woman and a man, both with the captain of the ship mentality, it's very hard also.
Bakit laging wala si mommy? Specifically, yung youngest namin. Siya yung nafe-feel namin na laging nag-a-ask bakit kami laging wala.
I think with doctor couples, they have to be really intentional about leaving that boss thing in the workplace where it should be. And when you come home, you have to consciously tell yourself, I'm laying down my doctor's hat and I'm coming home. I'm an ordinary wife and I'm an ordinary mother. I'm not gonna order around my husband and my kids as if I was still in the clinics and everyone has to follow me.
Another con would be like, especially if you start out na you're still training, like us now, parang there are times talaga that you don't have time for each other. Siguro when we're not na training and I'm more in control, maybe, but yun, it's hard if you're starting off like this. Yeah.
A great part of a doctor's day is having to always prove himself to be right. You have to prove to your patients that you're giving them the right treatment, the right management, the right medicines. If you propose a mode of management to your colleagues, you'll have to prove to them that your bases are correct. You have the right basis for choosing that course of action. And sometimes when you get home, you have this habit of having to insist that you're right. But then again, you'll have to remember when you go home and you talk about relationships rather than work, when you talk about marriage rather than your profession, you're now shifting to the language of love. And in love, doesn't matter who's right. It always is a question of who's mature enough to love the other, right or wrong.
Yung aming eldest, si Trisha, kasi ano yan eh, mas naintindihan niya. Kasi nga, kasama rin naman namin. Pag wala kami, hindi na siya nagtatanong. Ang nagtatanong yung bunso.
I guess that's a con, no? When you're both starting to establish your practice or you're still both in training, you kind of have a lot of time apart.
And there's also this disadvantage of talking about your profession all the time. And the kids feel excluded. And you're talking shop all the time about this patient and that patient. Sometimes even arguing about treatment. Diba? Or methods. No, I don't think that's right. Mga ganon. And in that table, you're kind of also in a world of your own.
If you have other people at the dining table who are not in the medical field, like
parang
my younger sister or
Si Waki.
your younger brother, they sometimes get alienated.
But that's not our problem, is it?
Yung pangalawa, si Jolo naman, hindi rin naman. It's more on the youngest, si Waki.
So, ang disadvantage is more of time.
Time sa kids.
If you're both doctors, kasi your time is irregular. There's no fixed time eh.
Oo, right.
Unlike
Oo.
regular employees na 8 to 5 job.
You have the luxury to choose. It's a luxury that not many people get to have. You can choose what you want to get out of your profession because you will be in a position to really bring it where you want it to go.
Stay together, pray together, put God in the middle of your relationship. Kasi bata pa yung mga anak namin when we were starting, we pray together, we pray the rosary together. Ayun yung guide nila para sa yung maging mabuta silang tao. And then you go to mass together.
Don't go.
Yun din yung sinabi, yun din yung sinabi mo dun sa isa nating video. Don't do.
Run! So, hindi.
You can be a very good academician, you can be a very good clinician, but we always say, do not forget that you're going to have to continue being a parent. And your kids will not wait for you. If you're not there, they will grow with or without you. And you have the luxury to choose.
We have to admit this that well, there's always conflict eh. Hindi naman smooth ang relationship. Laging may darating na conflict. Basta alam mong kayo ay solid sa family. Eventually, nawawala yun eh. One day, hindi mo palilipasin ng mas maraming araw. Kasi isipin mo, ayokong mabuwag to. Ayokong parang ano yan eh, sa porcelain na hindi pwedeng mabitak.
I guess like him with me and just be very patient because even though you're both doctors and you feel like you understand each other, everything that the other person has been through, everybody has different circumstances.
You know, it can be very,
Enthralling.
yeah, you can get so enthralled in the practice of medicine, you might forget your family. And by the time you realize, oops, I have to go back to my family. Oops, I've had enough of my medical career and it's time to go back to the family. Sometimes they're not there anymore.
It's too late.
They're all grown ups and they have their own lives and it's too late. So at the onset, remember, you have the luxury to choose.
Siyempre, you get advice from older individuals na who'd been there for a long time. No? Tagal na. There are always people na may experiences na at saka matagal nang magkakasama na pwede kang tulungan.
Just be patient and try to be understanding. And like what he said, because you know naman that the other person has difficulties because it's not an easy job din naman, especially nga when you're training pa lang. So just help each other out and know when to step in and when to take a step back.
For me, keep your life simple. Have simple needs so that there will be enough money for a house, a car, to bring the kids to school, and also time.
Siyempre, we have our parents, no? Yun ang isa pang ano eh. Part of foundation yun eh. Parents mo. Kasi parents namin, both Lilia and I, they've been together. May parents, they died not together, no? Pareho nang wala. Pero they're still together when they die. So yun ang pinaka-role model mo eh.
Mine would be, I think,
Marry a beautiful doctor.
Time to really have a life, the one that makes you happy. Every day, you have to tell yourself, today I will have a conversation with the people that are important to me.
Mine would be to find comfort in each other, given that medicine is really a tough field to be in. Like, there are a lot of stressful nights and times when the work is too hard or too difficult. And as a married or engaged couple, you only have each other to lean on. And God, of course.
Today I will have a conversation with my husband. Today I will have a conversation with my kids. Or maybe it's your mom or your sister or your brother. But whoever it is who is important to you, today you have time for them. It has to go in the calendar. Just like we made videos about raising children.
Aside from that, I married Ricky because he's my love.
Soulmates.
Yes, I consider him my soulmate. After all these years, I realized na he's my soulmate. Even at times, we get our share of arguments, our pagtatampuhans. But I think when you marry a person, you don't change the person according to what you like that person to be. Dapat accept mo siya
As he
is. As much as possible. Hindi. Really, try hard to accept him as he is. Love his flaws.
Yeah, like Trisha said, to be understanding of each other, because it really can get stressful, but it's always very nice to have someone there to be with you who knows how hard it can get and who will always be a shoulder to lean on, sometimes to cry on, to vent out to without being judged. That's also why you're marrying that person, diba?
It has to go in the appointment book that today I'm going to have a conversation with the people who matter, who do matter to me. That's as important as a patient, right? It's never gonna be I have a conference, so I'll not be able to talk to them. Today it's gonna be a conference. Tomorrow it's gonna be a lecture. The next day it's gonna be a meeting.
And as much as possible, you grow together to revert or to change that flaw into something that's good.
Bye.
Thank you.
Oh, bye-bye na.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yay. Okay.
May kiss pa.
Yeah.
Kiss isa. Kiss.
Huwag na kiss!
Ayaw na ng kiss.
Ako mag-kiss sa'yo. Kiss.
May dala akong ganito.
Gusto mo? Okay lang. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.
Subscribe.
Bye.
Like and subscribe.